Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 123 of Tech for Tea. I'm as always your host, Brody Robson, and today we have got a interesting guest. The first time I've talked to someone who does this, we've got a distro maintainer onto the show. Welcome to the show, Tech Zero, or Steve, what do you want me to call you?
Dark Zero, that's what I'm known at
Okay.
over at the XeroLinux.
You got like 3 different names you go by, so I wasn't sure which one you wanted to use.
Dark Zero is the one.
Okay, cool. So how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, we can sort of just get right into like why you're here, or we can talk about the store that you were in, or we can do really anything you want to do.
Well, let's talk about the state of Linux first, and then, let's jump to that later. I'll just talk a little bit about XeroLinux first, just to get it out of the way. It's just XeroLinux is not a full-on distro as people think of it. It's just a means for me to give users an easy way to install Arch with KDE. Instead of having vanilla KDE, I prefer to ship it with a good-looking and well-optimized version.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of XeroLinux. Beyond that, it's up to the user to figure out how to get his or her hardware working and stuff like that. We do try our best to provide support, but
yeah,
it's very difficult, especially when it comes to hardware, NVIDIA specifically.
Well, with NVIDIA, there's only really so much you can do. You can make sure the drivers are available, and maybe you can give some extra documentation on, like if someone has to install a custom version or anything like that, how to actually go about doing that. But if there's a problem with it specifically, it's not like you really have any way to really address that.
Exactly. When you don't own the hardware that people ask you to troubleshoot, you cannot give them the answer. You can point them the right way, but other than that, it's up to them to test and see if it works or not. Our job is to point to the right direction. Other than that, it's up to them. So by putting out XeroLinux, I slowly discovered that people sometimes expect the unexpected. Like they want us sometimes to hold their hands, to spoon feed them how to install everything. Like I don't own laptops on which I can install Linux. I only own a MacBook Pro from 2016. So if they come to me, they tell me, "Oh, XeroLinux is causing my battery to drain faster." I can't optimize it for a laptop. I don't own one. So stuff like that. So I don't want to go talking too long about it, but it's just like simple issues related to stuff I don't own. They expect me to solve them all of a sudden. I cannot test them to say that this and this and this works. I can only read. So they should do the reading and do the testing on their own hardware. But yeah, that's the whole thing.
Well, judging what you said, you sort of, I'm guessing you sort of started this project as something for you, and then you felt like you might as well put it out there.
This is how it started, yeah. I don't know if you heard of ArchLinux.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
XeroLinux at the core uses the Arco build scripts that he created for ALCI. I found that it's pretty easy and self-explanatory. All I have to do is swap some things with, like, for example, GNOME with KDE and stuff. It was very easy to get it up and running. And I made it for me primarily. And I shared it online because friends told me it's a beautiful distro. It's really fast. It's really well optimized, and it saves me from having to type a lot of things the Arch way. I was like, yeah, cool. You want me to share it? I'll share it, but don't expect anything. They were like, yeah, we won't expect anything. Oh no! When it's online, they will come at you with pitchforks, demanding stuff to be implemented, like different WMs, different desktop environments, TWMs. I'm like, no, KDE, that's where it's. I tried. I tried GNOME, I tried XFCE, and I failed. So, and I'm alone. I'm a 42-year-old geezer trying to do this. And now at some point, I found myself a slave to the user. I'm like, no, that was not the point of XeroLinux. I'm going back.
Yeah.
And this is what it is. And now it's a disclaimer. When you click download, it will slap you with a huge disclaimer and user agreement. It will explain what the distro is and set expectations. You don't agree? Click disagree. That's it. Done deal.
What does it say here right now? So point number 1, Xero Linux is a hobby distribution. Issue resolution is not always guaranteed, but we will do our best. It just offers an easy way to install Arch Linux with a well-optimized and customized KDE Plasma. Point number 2, we provide our custom repositories, and the final boss is always reading for me, and packages for better functionality. You can add your own later on. Xero Linux is not a full-on distro by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing is nor will ever be forced on you. The whole point of it is to provide you with a stable base that you can shape your way the easy way. Right, that makes sense. So
yeah, that's the whole point. And I go on explaining in the troubleshooting, but the gist of it, troubleshooting, I provide them a link to Linux questions, because that's a big community over there, and they're not elitist like they are on Arch. You can easily search for your issue, and if it's not there, you can post about it, and they are very friendly, and they will provide you with solutions. I can't, because I'm not a community. I'm one man. Or they can use the ArchWiki. It's up to them. The ArchWiki is a little bit too technical for the new users, so I put it second. Because the ArchWiki, when you go to it, it's like, do this, do that, and they go immediately into the technical details, the nitty-gritty of the stuff. It's a good place to learn, only if you're a nerd. If you can understand these things. But Linux questions, it's full of beginners who discovered the solution and shared it. So I share it first, then the ArchWiki. And if they can't find the solution on either or they don't want to post on Linux questions, they can use a search engine of choice. It's the tried and true fallback.
I think.
But other than that,
I was going to say, I think the ArchWiki is. It's a weird resource because it's a purely community-driven resource. Some of the pages there are really good and really well laid out. But I've noticed that a lot of things, especially on the Wayland side, a lot of the Wayland stuff is, granted, a lot of the Wayland documentation very scattered anyway, so it's kind of hard to build up that community resource in the first place, but some pages are either outdated or just, they don't really always provide you with what you need to know.
Like, on the Wayland side of things, I still cannot log into Wayland, because I'm an NVIDIA user, KDE, I try to log in, it spits me back out to the login screen. There are ways around it, technical ways around it. You can just add a line to the grub config, and you're good to go. I just don't want to do that. I'm the kind of guy, if it doesn't come from the manufacturer or the developer himself, I will not have to. I don't like to use hacks. Like they say, hacks. So I say I cannot use Wayland. So as a result, Xero Linux does not ship with Wayland enabled, the Wayland session enabled. I provided via my post installs tool, which uses YAD for now. But there's a button. You click it, it re-enables the session. If you are, and I do say this a lot. Only if you are suicidal will you try that. So if you are suicidal and you want to deal with something that's going to cause you headaches, by all means, the option is there in the tool. And that's another point about Xero Linux. Xero Linux does not remove stuff without offering them as options later on in the upcoming tool. We have just recently got a new developer on the team. We're working on an all-in-one, the Swiss Army knife tool that you get post-install. I'm getting rid of the driver selection in Calamares, which a lot of people offer in their Calamares installer nowadays. I'm giving the choice of drivers post-install. So I'm using Mesa to begin with, like a fallback to get everything up and running. And then post-install, you configure your system, drivers, packages, themes, RICEs, everything you need to get up and running will be provided via a tool post-install. So Xero Linux is about freedom of choice. I will never force anything on anyone. That's a promise I gave my users. I will never force anything on them. Even if, for example, you install Xero Linux today, and then I released a new ISO with new features or fixes later on, the tool will automatically detect that they are on an older version of Xero Linux. They will get offered the new fixes and options via the tool. but they choose which one of them they want to apply.
Yeah.
They're not forced. They're not forced with them. Like for example, if I opted to remove Pamac and I opted to use Octopi later on, I'll offer them the option: remove Pamac, install Octopi, or leave it as is. This is what users starting to like about XeroLinux, that nothing is forced. So you enjoy it the way you want. You shape it the way you want afterwards. It's just a base. I'm just a clean base. So slowly it's picking up ground as a stable base distro that you can shape the way you want, and I'm happy about that. Some users don't like it, but it's to each their own.
Well, I think it's a really different way compared to the way that a lot of other distros work, where it's sort of, hey, this is the way the distro is set up, and that's sort of how it is.
That's the thing I wanted to run away from.
Yep. No, I get that as well, because like I understand why someone would want something that's just working as is out of the box. Like a lot of people would just, customization isn't the thing that every single user wants. Like a lot of people out there will just want, hey, this just works, I install it, and it's basically good to go. But I feel like especially if you're using something that's Arch-based, the customization aspect is definitely a big part of that.
Yeah, true. But what I mean by customization is you install your own packages.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
To me, if I, for example, ship with a certain group of packages for audio editing, for video and audio editing, and stuff like that. Number one, the ISO is going to grow too big.
Yeah.
Number two, users will have to sit around sudo pacman remove. So they're going to sit around removing this and that. And I realized that when I began with XeroLinux, I used to ship it with Vivaldi. And you can imagine the anger that I got.
Yeah, I saw the DT's video and he covered it. It had Vivaldi.
Yeah, it was. I decided since then to remove it, to put the tried and true Firefox, and then the user decides later on what. I tried to ship with Falcon, the KDE default one, to be on the safe side, but unfortunately Falcon was beyond broken and unmaintained. So I was like, which browser should I put? Okay, I'll put Firefox. I'll end it there. So this is the kind of thing that got me to realize, if I ship it with nothing, let the user choose what they want and how they want to build it. They can either build it as a gaming distro, they can build it as a production distro, they can build it as a 3D thing. They can shape it however they want. I just need to select the right packages that I will offer via my tool later on, and that's it. The choices are there, and I organize everything. And this is another thing, is that I have a mild case of digital OCD, as I call it, because I apply it to my digital life, not my real life. Like the packages that I will offer in my package installer will be organized, like audio video. You got the audio converters, audio players, audio editors. Same thing for everything. So everything is organized, even with that, alphabetically.
Yeah.
So users know what they're installing. So if they check this tool, even though they don't know what the tool by name, because with Arch, I don't know why they call the packages weird names. For an email client, there's an email client called Jitsu or something like that.
Okay,
what?
Sure.
So I'm like, that doesn't tell me that it's an email client. But if it's under the category email clients, the user will know that it's an email client. So I go above and beyond to make sure that the user knows what he's installing. So I offer these. They can select whatever they want, and then they shape their computer perfectly. If I don't do that, users are going to start installing packages here and there, left and right, and they're going to break their system, and they're going to come to me, your XeroLinux broke on me. And it was because of your video that I switched to PipeWire.
Oh. Yeah, I've been really liking PipeWire.
Yeah, you installed confidence in me to do the switch. I was thinking about it, considering, but I didn't know if I should, because people used to tell me Pulse is the tried and true. Pulse is.
Who are you talking to that's that much of a fan of Pulse? I've never met them.
I met a lot. They tell me Pulse, I've been using it forever, never had delay issues, never had. And I explained to that person, it's because some distros like Ubuntu, you said that in one of your videos, they're shipping with the media session instead of Wire Plumber for some odd reason. When you covered the beta version of Ubuntu, I don't know which version it was.
Yes. Yeah, I've talked about too many things. I forget my own videos sometimes.
I remember them because you're doing a very good job.
Thank you.
So, yeah, media session is the wrong thing to. It's the wrong session to ship with PipeWire. If you do, it's gonna be broken.
You can make an argument for it, but I personally think Wire Plumber is a better option.
Yeah, same here.
The only argument you can really make for the PipeWire media session is on certain configurations, Wire Plumber doesn't act the way it should.
That is true, especially older hardware.
Yeah. I've personally not had any issues with anything I've used, but I think, I don't know, if you don't care about the customization, it's probably fine. Like, it's one of those options where it's not a terrible thing to ship, but there are better options out there.
Like, for example, I have on my desktop, I was trying, because I always try whatever I include in Xero Linux on bare metal.
Yeah.
I have a separate SSD, a hot swappable SSD. So basically, I tried with the media session. For some reason, whenever I talked to someone, they told me, have you swallowed helium?
Right.
I'm like, why? They tell me, you sound like Chip and Dale. Okay, so I kept messing around. I realized that Wire Plumber does a better job, but in order to get Wire Plumber to work, because as a distro maintainer, there's a file called packages x8664. It's all the packages that will be included on the ISO. If you don't put Wire Plumber first, and then you include all the PipeWire stuff underneath, there's a package, I think Bluetooth or Blues or something, that will ship as a dependency Pulse.
Okay.
One of the packages, I don't know which one. I could be wrong. It's not Bluetooth, but I don't remember. But there's one package on there that ships Pulse as a dependency. But if you have Wire Plumber in the PipeWire section first, and you include, and I created a meta package for PipeWire, and I added the other PipeWire packages underneath, plus lib32 PipeWire package from the multi-lib.
Yep.
Wire Plumber will override that dependency of the other package.
Huh.
So yeah, so that way I get a very stable and clean PipeWire inclusion in Xero Linux. But we don't need to forget that we can't forget that PipeWire ships with PipeWire Pulse, a Pulse emulator. But when I use, for example, to record I use Simple Screen Recorder to record my screen with my audio. When I use that, I have to make sure I am using either ALSA or Pulse.
Yep.
Because for some reason, Simple Screen Recorder doesn't work with PipeWire yet.
Okay.
It works, but I sound like a chipmunk.
Basically. Okay, right.
I don't know why. I couldn't figure it out. I don't. That's why I use ALSA.
I have no idea about that one.
Yeah, Simple Screen Recorder. It's a very easy thing to record. Yeah. I don't want to bother with OBS to learn stuff. I'm just shooting a virtual machine of myself installing Xero Linux and creating an install guide. That's it. So, and it doesn't skip when you launch a virtual machine, because if you use OBS, somebody told me, I didn't try it yet, but if you're launching a virtual machine and you're recording your audio via OBS, it will skip when the virtual machine will launch, because it's switching from the host to the guest. Yep. So with Simple Screen Recorder, it doesn't do that. So that's why I kept using it.
Okay, sure. I didn't do that. I think I've had that problem show up during a stream once, and I wasn't sure what was causing it, but that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because it's switching between it doesn't know if it should record the guest or the host. So it's normal. It's a normal behavior. But Simple Screen Recorder is dumb. The way others call it, it's a dumb video screen recorder. So it doesn't feel anything happening. It sticks to the host. So I'm good with that. That's why I use it. But Yeah, audio as a whole, like we always say on the DT cast, audio and GPUs are the two main things that are iffy on Linux. And
yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
I would like to throw capture cards in there as well. But that's more of a specialized thing. But capture cards are generally fine if they are V4L. If they are not, good luck. Like, I've got my Ava Media down here. This works great. Elgato makes a couple of cards that work well. Most of what they put out, though, is absolute junk because it doesn't have the drivers it specifically needs for that card.
I've heard people have issues with that, and as a capture card, I have one, but it's currently in. It's a $700 card. It's a 4-way Blackmagic design.
Yeah.
It's got four inputs for 4 different cameras. Because I got it for church, but they didn't pay for it, so it's still mine. So because we're using security cameras in church to capture all the mass and everything, we have four different cameras, so we need the 4 inputs. But I don't think there's well, they say that Blackmagic works on Linux. I haven't tried it, so
I've heard that, but I also don't want to spend $700 to find out.
Yeah, so I was hoping church would pay for it, but for now they're still delaying, and it's been a year. So
yeah, audio's
anyway.
Audio's a weird one. Like audio, I think a lot of the people I've heard that don't like Pulse Audio, a lot of the arguments that I think was started because of that is the way it was initially shipped. Like back when Pulse Audio was first being brought in, and we were first starting to migrate away from doing pure ULSA, a lot of distros back then were basically shipping broken configurations. Like, it was shipped a little bit too early, and that was my worry with distros starting to ship PipeWire. It seems like it's basically, ironed itself out, and the distros that have started are pretty much fine, and now that Wayland is also starting to become a thing that a lot of distros are shipping as well, it seems like it's going relatively well, but yeah.
They're still working on it.
Yeah.
The issue with Pulse was, between Pulse and PipeWire, I think it was the sample rate misconfiguration. But I think they fixed it in the recent update, I think. I'm not sure. Like yesterday, I got an update for PipeWire.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe they fixed it, but everybody I talk to that uses Xero Linux, they say, for my configuration, specific configuration, I have to go into the PipeWire conf and fix the sample rate. And then they come back telling me, it took me an hour to figure out which pipewire.conf to apply the fix to, because there are 16 different ones in the system.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so PipeWire tells you to edit pipewire.conf, but they don't tell you which one. So it's up to you to hunt, to start going on a pipewire.conf hunt. I'm like, okay.
I don't know what's worse, modifying PipeWire or Pulse Audio stuff, or modifying Xorg configurations, because there are just as many files for that, and it's just as much of a pain.
Like you brought up a subject related to Xorg yesterday. You know how Arch releases a monthly ISO?
Yeah.
We rely on that as distro maintainers. We rely on updates that they push to apply to since we use Arch ISO to build our distros. So what they decided out of the blue to do is no longer use system deboot for booting the ISO for UEFI systems. They chose to use Grub.
Wait, they switched back to Grub?
They switched back to Grub in the UFI.
What?
And here's how they did it. Here's how they did it.
Yep.
It's a precompiled Grub CFG that you cannot modify because you need to generate one yourself. But you can't generate one for the live ISO because it's not. There's no way to generate one. All you can do is edit the name of the distro and the flags, like the cow size for the temporary folder size, and modify the flags for free and proprietary. That's it. That's all you can modify. I tried to use a theme or whatever. It broke SDDM. I couldn't log in, even in a virtual machine that has nothing. I was getting a black screen. So I was like, okay, roll back to system D and all is fine and all is good. So don't know why they decided that. Sometimes yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes it feels like the Arch devs just make changes like you'd make changes if you're trying to like keep yourself employed, where they'll just change things for seemingly no reason. She's like, why did you do that? And then just change it back like a couple of months later. Like, why? What was the purpose of that?
You remember on April 1st what they did? I don't know if you noticed, but on April 1st, as an April Fool's joke, Arch updated their Arch ISO build environment to include a PC speaker Pac-Man beep.
I didn't know about that one, no.
So whenever you booted the ISO to install Arch, it would play the Pac-Man theme using your PC speaker.
Yeah.
So, and they reverted that a week later. But I kept it in my Xero Linux install, and I posted a guide on my forum on how to disable it. But after they removed it, and since I used their updated scripts, it got removed automatically. But still, it was a funny joke. Those kind of things I would agree with. Yeah. But going back to grub and breaking SDDM for no reason, I don't get it. Plus, I cannot set it to use a certain resolution.
Yeah.
It has to automatically detect the native resolution of the monitor.
Right, yeah.
If you have a 4K monitor, you would need a telescope to read the text.
Yep.
So I was like, no, revert back to system D. I'm good. Sometimes Arch gets me antsy, but since I'm a distro maintainer, I know how to fix stuff. Well, but for a regular user, it's not going to be very easy. They're going to scratch their heads, look around for days, and why? Arch, why?
I just, like... I hear about these changes that happen to the ISO every so often. I'm very happy that you don't like need to reinstall Arch like, you know, every couple of months or whatever. So I don't have to deal with this. I've installed Arch like once 3 years ago. I haven't had on this system 2 years ago. I haven't had to deal with it since then. It's been great, but it's always fun to go and look at just some of the random things they're doing. It's just I can totally understand why that would be a massive pain. Or like when they changed out the way that networking was done on the ISO, where they changed it to IWD from what they were using before, which is just like, why? Why did you do that?
Also with the NS switch, the NS switch conf file, they switch things around. A lot of users now don't get the network manager in KDE. It shows them that they are connected to the internet, yet they don't have a connection. Because they switched a value around. It used to be at the end of the line. Now it's at the beginning of the line.
Right.
So in case, it says, in case something, then drop. If this, then drop. For some reason, they put it at the beginning of the line, thus resulting in a lot of users with special network cards, like on Asus laptops, who use very specific chipsets. The network manager is gets confused. It shows them that they have a connection. When they try to launch a website, open a website, it doesn't open. And my Calamaris will break because it relies on an internet. So I'm like, I don't know how to solve that for you. So after doing a lot of research for a few hours, I figured out that if I switch it back to the end of the line, it will work for some users, it will stop for other users. Why did you add this value to the line? I'm like, okay. It's we are as maintainers troubleshooting our own creations. Well, in the end, because of Arch.
It's one thing when it's a problem with something that you've specifically decided to add to the system, but when it's just the base itself isn't as stable as you'd like it to be, like, that doesn't sound like it's great to deal with. But I did want to ask you, like, sort of what goes into actually making a distribution based on Arch. Like, what do you... I have no idea what you would even need to do this.
You don't need anything, basically. You just need the right script that builds the ISO, which in my case is ALCI. But what it uses, you need the Arch ISO, which is shipped on Arch by default. So it uses that to build the ISO. Because there is a guide on the Arch website on how to build the ISO yourself. You just change the packages that are in the package x86-64 to suit your needs, and that's it. But if you want to go add a desktop environment and stuff like that, you have to ship your own default configurations. For me, it took me about 9 days to figure out which files I needed for KDE. I ended up with around 600 different configuration files. But there, yeah, and the tool that helps a lot is the way things go is I install Arch with the desktop environment of choice. In my case, is KDE.
Yep.
Create a backup of the .config and .local folders. I just right-click, duplicate here. Start modifying. And then I use a tool called Meld to compare what changed in what file. And I just ship those modified files with the modifications as a package.
Right.
On the ISO. And there's a script called Skel. The job of Skel is to copy anything in etc Skel to the user's home directory during install. That's it.
Okay.
It's very simple. It's not very difficult. It's just once you have the right configuration files in the package, you just tell it to move it to the user's home directory, and the desktop environment is going to use those configuration files instead of the default ones. That's it. That's what Xero Linux does. I just ship the configure like with my rice. Since Xero Linux is also about the eye candy.
Yeah.
I create my own rice. I have 5 different rices that I will offer in the next release in the tool. Like MacLeod Linux. I don't know if you know MacLeod Linux. They have this tool with thumbnails of the different looks. You click apply and it will apply this new look, layout basically. Same thing will happen with Xero Linux, except mine will do more things behind the scene. That's why it requires a reboot.
Yeah.
But that's what Xero Linux does. It just ships with customized configuration files that apply to the system during install. That's it. I just add the KDE packages in the package file to tell the ISO to use KDE, and that's it. So what you see during the live ISO that you boot, that's your future system.
Yeah.
And I use Calamares because it's super easy. Super easy. Just next. So yeah, that's it. It's not very difficult. Once you got the script that creates the ISO, you're done. You just modify the packages file and you're done. That's it.
I didn't think it was that easy.
It is easy. It's super easy. If people think it's hard, I have a guide on my forum on how to do that. You just git clone my repository, packages file, remove KDE, put GNOME packages instead. Done. You have Xero Linux GNOME edition.
Huh.
It's very simple. It's very, very, very simple. People think it's hard, but it's not.
I should get around to doing that, to be honest. Like, it sounds like a fun little experiment, at least.
Yeah, you could build your own. It's like on MX Linux. You have the ISO thing that you install your system, you set it up the way you want, and you build an ISO out of it.
Yep.
So using rsync and stuff like that. Same idea. So you just ship, instead of creating a package, because there's the option, I selected to do it as a package, but all you need to do is put your home files like .config, .local, KDE4 in case of KDE. You put those in this etc Scal folder, and it will include on the ISO, and it will ship it on the ISO. In your case, I think which window manager do you use?
I'm using Awesome right now.
Okay, so you include your awesome dot files in the etc folder, and it's going to copy them over to the future system. Done deal. So if you want, you can look at the guide on my.
Yeah, I actually have to do that. Because I know a lot of people out there will do things like they'll make install scripts, like a post install script for their system.
DTOS. DTOS style.
Or like labs that Luke was doing a while back. That doing it through a custom ISO honestly seems like it might be a little bit easier.
It is easier because you tell the packages file what packages to include. You can include Kdenlive, you can include whatever you want. If you're not going to share the ISO, it doesn't matter if it's a 6 gig ISO.
Yeah.
For you just put it on the side, and whenever you want to install, you know that it's going to install everything you need. You use. This is how Xero Linux started. I wanted to include everything I wanted. I don't use any Office suites or anything. I use Notepad So I didn't need to include a lot. For my use, I just needed Vivaldi, I just needed Discord, and that's it. So that's what I included on the ISO. So, and then I started modifying a little bit and a little more and a little more and a little more, and I said, well, I can customize even KDE. I can ship it with the look and feel that I want.
And then you gave yourself a ton of extra work.
It's not work anymore. At first it was, yeah. It took me 9 days to figure things out. But after that, it just takes me half an hour to figure things out. Because I have a base. I have a solid base to do. So I use a pre-existing rice. I modify things around, and I meld, and then take the files that I need, and that's it. Done deal. But the problem with shipping rices like that, they're not universal. This is another thing I wanted to mention to users, because they come to me, they're telling me, I applied your rice, but I don't see the wallpaper that shipped with the rice on my system. I'm like, I built it on my own system. So my system is using 3 monitors, 2 HDMI and 1 DisplayPort. Yours might be using DVI or VGA, God forbid. Who still uses VGA these days? But the connections are different. So unless it's hard, I code in C++, as Nicolo Venerandi says, unless I build a theme from the ground up, I cannot hard code the wallpaper into it. So I can just use a configuration file inside the .config that tells the system to apply to my monitors a wallpaper. But your monitors are set up differently, so you're going to end up with no wallpaper, or you're going to end up with the default KDE wallpaper. So you just right-click, change wallpaper, apply the wallpaper that shipped with the rice. It's like a 2-second job. People want support for these kind of things. They don't know how to right-click, change a wallpaper. and now KDE even spoon feeds how to change the resolution. Right-click, change display settings. You no longer have to go to settings and hunt for the display settings and stuff like that. So I'm like, I can do what I can do on my system. If it doesn't work on your system, that means your system is different. So just do the necessary to adapt it to your system. Simple. I only have one big system. All the other systems are from 2012, 2015. So
that's fair.
So I can only build on that system. It's gonna be different than yours. It's 100% confirmed. But things like that.
I get it with problems like that. Like that's such a simple thing that if it doesn't work properly, like I wouldn't even go out of my way to ask someone about it. Like, oh, the wallpaper just didn't work properly. Sure, that's fine. Whatever.
Like for example, with the latest Plasma 525, which is at second point release, and the third one coming soon. The floating panel. I talked to Nicolo. I was like, when I maximize the windows, the floating panel is gaining 200 pounds. So it's becoming twice as thick. He was like, it's by design. Because, and now I understand what he meant by design. There's a lot of work that goes into it, like related to the shadows and stuff like that. He had no choice. He had no choice. I asked him, why don't you make it go back to normal? He was like, if I make it go back to normal, he had issues with making it go back to floating. So he used the shadow instead. But now it's like, on your screen is this thick. I'm like, okay. So I replaced it with Latte panel. Quite simple solution. So, and Latte just announced that do not use the stable version with 525, use the Git version.
Right.
It's in August, it will ship as 0.11. So stable version, which is compatible with 525, but for now, use the Git. So I updated all my rices to use the Git version. I follow the workflow, and the nice thing about making my rices into scripts is I can modify them at any time, and you don't need to reinstall. And that's another thing. Xero Linux, with every new release, will never require a fresh install. That's one thing I'm aiming at. Never require a fresh install. You'll be offered the changes with my tool. If you want them, okay. If you don't want them, just don't use them. Just keep using the system. Because Xero Linux is a hobby distro, as you read earlier. So I can do it for a certain period of time, but everything has a beginning and an end.
Yeah, yeah.
So there will come a time where I can no longer maintain the project. It will still be there on GitHub. It will be there for anyone to fork and anything. I would just archive it and let anyone who wants to pick it up and figure out how to do things. I'm not going to even teach those people how to do things because it takes too long, and I got my own methods, and they might agree, they might disagree. I'm just going to leave it out there. Mm-hmm. Whoever wants to pick it up, they can pick it up. The website will still remain online. Everything will remain online. It's just there will come a time, and it could be very near because I'm currently running the store, but I had only 2 customers in 1 year.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because of the situation in Lebanon right now. But I'm looking for work. I need to get myself situated. Mm-hmm. And I would because I'm looking for sales jobs, and you know how sales jobs, you don't even get a weekend off. On the contrary, on the weekend you work double shift. Mm-hmm. So I won't have time to maintain Xero Linux. I might have a little bit of time to update the packages on my repositories, but that's it. So somebody has to pick it up at some point. For now, we're looking for developers who can take on different ideas, because none of us on Xero Linux team are developers. We just copy paste.
Yeah.
We just take scripts that exist out there. We just modify the name instead of, let's say, Manjaro. We put Xero Linux. We just replace the name, and we use those scripts. I'm using Pamac from source from the Manjaro GitLab. I'm not using the AUR packages. I'm using the ones from Manjaro straight. So so we need developers right now, because there is a guy who wants to take over the project, but the way he wants to take the route he wants to take requires developers who are willing to start doing stuff for Xero Linux pro bono at first, until we get enough donations in to start sharing because that's how Linux works. Yeah. You get donations, and according to the donation, you split it around. Once we get enough donations, we'll start splitting the income. But until then, we need someone who is willing to put in a little bit of time, or who have a little bit of time on their hands to provide a hand in the development realm, because we don't know how to develop anything. I can only read code, modify one name with Xero Linux. That's all I know how to do. Mm-hmm. So if somebody is interested, either contact us via our website or via the comments in any shape or form, and we'll talk from there. But I'm hoping Xero Linux will continue to live for a long period of time, but we can only hope. We cannot confirm anything, because the project is a good one, and I don't want it to die, but it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
Sometimes you start something. It's been going on for 2 years, but life is the inconsistent constant, as I call it.
Well, when it comes to developers, what are you actually looking for? Like, what languages? Just
doesn't
any
matter.
Development experience at all?
Any. Just like we got someone who is proficient in C++ right now, who's working on the tool, but he's working on the tool using Godot or Godot.
Yes.
So he's using it because it's easy to create GUI-based apps with buttons that call commands and stuff. And he's proficient in C++. I don't understand different. I don't know what's the difference between each language. I don't know what C++ is, what C# is. I just know the names. So whatever developer that can put our visions are just small tools, GUI tools. We don't need somebody to create a whole desktop environment, for example. Mm-hmm. No, we're just looking for somebody who can create little tools that we can include on Xero Linux that do certain things that would make a user's life much easier. That's the whole idea. We're trying to create a small package manager, a GUI thing where I can offer a pre-made selection. Mm-hmm. Like I told you earlier, like I want to offer video editors, audio editors, and development tools and stuff that users can click, select, check, and hit install, and will install everything in one go. And in case of, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because sometimes there are conflicts, package conflicts.
Yeah.
We need to be done in such a way where it can also allow the user to accept the conflict, ignore the conflict, and a little bit of user input. Because the one we currently use has an issue with that specific thing. In case of conflicts, it will crash.
That's a problem. Yep.
Yeah, so we're trying our best to fix it, but it's we don't have developers.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Once we have developers, they will know how to avoid such things. So if they have to hook into something called libpamac, I'm okay with the idea as long as they don't install Pamac, the package manager from Manjaro. If they can just install that as a dependency and use it, okay. But I don't want Pamac to install on the user system unless the user wants it.
Yeah. What is the problem you have with Pamac then? I've got my own issues with Pamac, but what issues specifically do you have with it?
Well, actually, myself personally, no issues.
Okay.
Absolutely, I prefer it to anything else. The only time I suffered issues was when they started having key issues with Arch.
Yeah.
Not Arco. Arco, I removed the repositories for that reason because it introduced, and I don't agree with signing packages. People come at me and they tell me, why don't you sign your packages? People are not going to trust the packages coming from your repo. I tell them, do even users coming from Windows know what signed packages mean? They don't. So I don't sign my packages, so I don't have any issues with keys unless it comes from Arch. But with Arco, since Arco is also a hobby distro, if you want, those keys are not being maintained by the Ubuntu servers and stuff like that.
Right.
So it has to be manually populated. So during the installation of Arco Linux, there's a step that says populate Arco Linux. It specifies Arco Linux because otherwise it's going to just populate. If you use just the populate flag, it's going to just populate the Arch keys.
Right.
So, and it's not doing it well enough. It's timing out, it's throwing errors. And so that's why I opted to use only my own repositories. I even built a custom TKG version of the NVIDIA drivers. I have an NVIDIA repository, I got the main repository, and I got an XL repository. XL means bigger packages because GitHub does not allow bigger packages than 100 meg.
Okay.
So, yeah, otherwise you have to pay.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
Yeah, large file storage, LFS. So I maintain my own repositories for that reason. I don't sign them. I don't want to deal with keys. Pamac has a big issue with keys. As soon as there's one key that's not there, it just crashes the whole install, or it crashes, or it hangs the daemon, and the daemon gets stuck. You have to reboot the system to get it back. But that's the only time I had an issue with Pamac. Otherwise, it was a good experience. I love Pamac because when you double-click a package, it takes it over and it asks you, do you want to install that package? I love that about Pamac. It doesn't happen with any other package manager. So they did it right. It works. Because if you want to use any other, I'm not talking about Discover, God forbid. Discover is not a thing to use. But if you use any other, like Octopi, you don't get notified about updates. You have to check for updates manually. Same goes with everything except Bau. Bau is written in Python, and Bau uses cron to check at a certain interval. At a certain interval you set in the settings for updates. That works and doesn't work. It's an iffy thing. So if you want to install Octopi, for example, you have to install something like a update notifier third party, either Plasmoid or a complete package. There's a package called Kalu KDE. It's superb. I recommend people use it because not only does it offer notifications, it notifies of latest Arch news from the RSS. This is really good, and it supports Yay, Paru, Snaps, Flatpaks. It's amazing. So my whole issue, if I don't offer Pamac out of the box, my whole issue is how am I going to notify the user of updates? So I have to user has to install 2 different packages.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know. The decisions like that sometimes cause issues. So
yeah, I can see why you might want to have something custom then.
Yeah, that's why we're looking for developers, somebody who can create a package manager with a notifier system that works and that doesn't use cron job.
Yeah.
So we need developers like that to create stuff that make users' life much easier. Well, but other than that, XeroLinux is on a good route right now.
When you mentioned not using keys, I think that user has a point about keys, but keys are a weird one. Like, if you're a really hardcore user, like the sort of person who, if you like get something from the AUR and you validate the build script every time, for those sort of people, keys probably matter because you're probably the sort of person who actually makes sure that like checks who the package has actually been signed by. But
not everything has keys. Like the only situations where was Dropbox.
No, the point I was getting at there wasn't with the AUR itself. It was with like, if you're the sort of person who cares that much about like what's being installed in your system, you're probably also going to check the keys if you're installing something like from the main Arch repos. That's what I was trying to get at there. Like the only time I even remember that keys exist and everything's been signed is when my keys are out of date.
Yeah, and when I tried to use keys, because I began by using the XeroLinux tutorial on how to create a repository and sign your packages, I always ended up having key issues because the Ubuntu servers and those KMS servers or whatever they call, they're always down, or either that or they don't maintain your keys after installing fresh. You have to reinitialize the GPG key server and get your keys in and whatever. It's an unnecessary headache. I prefer not to have keys. If people want to agree with that, they're free to use XeroLinux. If they don't agree with that, they can go to a distro that signs their packages. I'm not forcing anyone to use XeroLinux. Those are the ways that I do stuff. It's up to you if you agree or disagree. It's a decision. It's a choice thing, as Eric puts it. Choices. Like yesterday, I sent him. I cannot use the new grub thing with Arch ISO. I went back to systemd. His reply was very simple: choices. So yeah, and I agree with him. It's up. They supply changes. We either use them or don't. It's up to us. We choose. Sense. So I took the safe route with XeroLinux, not to include a lot of stuff out of the box. That way, I escape people telling me, "Oh, why did you choose this over that, or this over that, or this over that?" I don't ship anything. It's up to you to choose whatever you want. So I took that responsibility off my shoulders. It's the same way with sales. Like, to take the responsibility off of your shoulders when selling a product. You first have to analyze the customer. You see what they're holding, what devices they're holding, what their kids are holding, or what device they decided to look at. You analyze, you process, then you attack. You go to the customer and you start assisting.
Right.
So you make your choices. Okay, because she's holding an iPhone, but none of her kids have an iPad, and she's looking at the iPad, so I know that, okay, she needs an iPad. I'm not going to tell her, oh, no, go check a MacBook.
Yeah.
So I learned that from being in sales. So it's for me to make the decisions. It's easy for me, but in the Linux world, we know, you and I both know, that there's a lot of elitists out there. They will attack you no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So I escaped that. So I was like, okay, I don't know how to deal with the online mob. Don't offer anything. Let them do whatever they want. Because at first, in the beginning, I was being constantly compared to Garuda. Because I kind of look like XeroLinux.
It's a pretty Garuda. Arch install, so it's easy to compare you.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with it. Looks-wise, coming from the outside in, it would certainly give the Garuda vibes, yes. Because I'm not going to lie, the inspiration behind it was Garuda.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it in a simpler fashion, because Garuda, they, in the Dragonized edition at least, they ship a lot of tools and a lot of Kwin effects running by default. For lower end systems, it's not going to be a great experience. So I made the decision, okay, I want to become an eye candy distro without enabling a lot of things. And we went, as a result, we went down to between 30 and 60 services running in the background, down from 150, 160.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
So, because it's all because of plasmoids and effects, because every effect you enable adds a service.
Right.
Everything related to Kwin you enable, it's a separate service, especially when you add a weather widget. It has to check for a weather update somehow. So it has to enable a service to tell itself to update every 30 minutes. So we opted not to include a lot of those things, so minimizing the number of services. And everybody that installs Xero Linux, the reaction is the same. The snappiest custom KDE distro we've ever used. This is the goal. To offer good looking without too many services in the background. Same thing like debloating Windows. So we do work on optimizing KDE to the best to our abilities, because KDE, everybody knows that as good looking as it is, as customizable as it is, it comes with its own share of issues. Especially if you installed 525 lately, you would have noticed all the issues with Kwin, and the Kwin issue was a typo. The developer, when they released the first point release, in the change notes they said, "Oh, typo." Okay, how can you release something with a typo that crashes Kwin? But anyway,
developer
stuff
issues
like that. Yeah, so we have to circumvent all these issues, finding fixes for them. And since we don't control the packages that come from Arch, so we have to create our own custom configurations that enable this, disable that, and until the developers fix it upstream. Unlike KOS, they build their own KDE packages that they ship themselves. But we can't do that. So this is where we spend most of our time, fixing issues that are brought on by the developers upstream. So becoming a distro maintainer, you have to learn how to do that. You have to, you fell, you have to figure out how to get up. Nobody's here to help you. So you have to figure out how to get up and how to fix things. And this is what I love about Linux. The learning curve with Linux is, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too long. But,
no, that's fine. It just means I talk way less. I'm fine with this.
So it allows us to learn and to become instant recovery kind of people. And I love that. I really, really do. But when people ask me, okay, when you stop maintaining Xero Linux, what distro are you going to use? The distro that got me into Linux, which is Manjaro KDE. And being a maintainer and doing this for so long, I optimized my rising tool to work on Manjaro. I optimized it to work on Fedora as well. So that's why I now know that I can survive on any Arch-based distro or non-Arch distro, on any distro, because now I know how to optimize my stuff to work on any distro. But I'm not going to make it for users. It's only for me, because I either will use Fedora or Manjaro in the end.
One thing I did want to ask is why don't you just use Manjaro rather than spending your time maintaining this project? Like, why don't you just take the easy route and just do that instead?
Well, good question. A very valid question. I wanted to base Xero Linux on Manjaro, basically just an install script for Manjaro. Unfortunately, the Manjaro repositories don't offer a lot of leeway.
Yes.
I tried building Xero Linux on Manjaro, and I was wondering why it was failing. I went to the development group where all the major ISO builders meet. I was like, I'm trying to build my distro, and I'm currently running Manjaro because I'm testing it. They were like, you must be trolling us, right? It was like, you're building an Arch distro on a non-Arch distro. How the hell can you do that? I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that Manjaro was not Arch. So that's why I cannot get what I want using the Manjaro thing, but why I will use Manjaro after, because my requirements have dialed down.
Right.
For now, I keep using Arch because, well, Xero is out in the wild and everybody knows about it. I want to continue maintaining it. But when I use Manjaro and I want to continue working on Xero Linux, since I have 4 desktops, one of them is bound to keep using Xero Linux.
Sure.
So instead of working on the main one to build Xero Linux, I'll work on the other one. But it will take longer because the CPU is lower and the RAM is lower and everything, but I'll still be able to maintain at least the repositories. But other than that, yeah, Manjaro, because it was the first distro I ever used, it's the distro that got me to fall in love with Linux. Might as well go back to that one. I optimized everything to work on it, so no problems. People ask me, why don't you go Debian? Like, I used Debian, it lasted 60 minutes. Why? I told them because everything I ran tend to crash, or missing dependencies, or the package is too old. I find the configuration for Latte, for example, layout for Latte.
Yep.
I tried to apply it to the one available on the Debian repositories. It crashes Latte. Why? Because that layout was meant for the newer version of Latte,
right.
Which is 20 releases ahead. I'm like, Debian, no, sorry. It's good looking. It works for users who don't require much out of their system. But for my use case, it doesn't work. Because I'm a visual guy. I need to customize everything visually.
Yeah.
So with packages being so outdated, even with Debian Bullseye, it's more updated than Ubuntu, for example, but it's still like 10 versions behind.
Yeah. Well, you just do what some people do with Debian then, and just run Debian SID. Run the testing branch.
Even this testing branch is like 4 to 5 versions behind. I like to be on the bleeding edge.
Yeah.
But you made a very interesting video that compared bleeding edge.
Yeah, this is my very pedantic video, yes.
Yeah. So you were correct. You were very correct. You made valid points about that. Bleeding edge is one thing, and leading edge is a different thing. Arch is a leading edge, not bleeding edge. If you want to go bleeding edge, use the testing repositories on Arch. But I go with the flow. I call anything what users call it. I don't want to create a debate
as I said,
around
this is just me being like super pedantic. It's a thing that nobody else besides me like actually cares about. I wanted to put my thoughts out there, and that's just what I do on the internet. And
what I love about your videos is it's your own curiosities that create your content. You're curious about a project, about a certain project. You do your research around it, and then you make a well-informed video talking about your opinions about the thing, especially with the guy that got banned off of GitHub.
Oh yes,
thing.
what the one who got from the were we talking about pro bono, the app image guy?
Yeah.
Ah yes, okay.
Yeah, so they went the OBS.
Yeah. Got it from the OBS GitHub. Yes.
Yeah, so they went on and on and on and on. The guy that got banned deserves the ban because they were going backwards and forwards about the same subject for I don't know, a year plus.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, so I love the amount of research you put in everything because I'm not as curious as you are. I'm stuck in Arch KDE land. That's where I don't budge away from that because I'm too afraid as to what I'm gonna find. But I love the kinds of videos that you do because they're well informed. You're not doing them just to speak your opinion. You just base them on valid points. You show the proof to the people. You don't just stick in front of the camera. You show everything on screen.
Yeah, I feel like there's better ways I could show the information, but I don't like the idea of just... There's exceptions, but I don't like the idea of just like sitting in front of the camera the entire time, just not really showing the things that I've been like going over. And that's also I like in my descriptions include pretty much all the links I use to actually research whatever it is I'm researching. So if someone maybe disagrees with the point I came to, then they can actually go and see those resources themselves, and maybe they'll learn something they didn't know about it, or maybe they'll come back from that and say, hey, even though I've read that thing, this point I feel like I'm still right about, and you can, I think one of the things I like to have with the channel is I like to sort of, I guess, bring about a discussion. I'm here to just sort of bring together this information that I've found on these, like, all these disconnected sites, bring it together in this one place, and then sort of open up a discussion about a lot of the things, like, especially with the systemd out of memory killer thing that happened the other week.
Oop.
Yeah, the oomed.
Yeah, oomed, yeah.
I'm not here to say that Ubuntu is bad, Ubuntu is terrible, or even, like, some people will just instantly jump to systemd is bad because, Red Hat or whatever, but I just wanted to bring all of this information in one place, explain what's going on, explain the approach that is being taken to actually address the problem, and, I'm not I do have my degree as a software engineer. I should be a developer, but I'm here sitting talking on the internet. But if there are people in my audience who actually are using one of these systems and do want to go and fix one of these problems themselves, then maybe they didn't even know the problem was actually going on. And now that they know what's going on, they can actually go and help out that project and maybe add their input to it and see what they can do to it. I don't like the idea. I used to do this in the past. I've sort of changed the way I approach it. I don't like the idea of sort of attacking projects because of some approach they're taking. I'd much rather focus on the thing that project is doing well, and then, especially in cases where we can all agree that the problem, it is a problem, like the oomed thing. I don't want to focus on it's bad, this project is bad, you should stop using the project. I'd much rather focus on this is how the project is going to get better, because I feel like that's a more interesting thing to talk about anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't interject your opinion on the stuff, because you're
Depends
just
on
here
what it
to
is. Generally,
yeah,
I try to at least lay the facts out first.
Yeah, you lay the facts, and the viewer is free to form his opinion. And either they want to help out or they don't want to help out. I wish I can make videos. I'm not a video guy. I don't like editing videos. I don't like making tutorial videos or how to install Xero Linux. Is kind of difficult for me because I don't know how to talk on video. I don't have the equipment. I don't, as you can hear, you're going to hear a lot of echo because I'm not equipped to make videos. And I'm most of the time in the store. So I can only do so much.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of moments where I really want to talk about a project and tell them this is the way they do it. I personally agree or disagree with them, but it's up to you to form your own opinion. But I can't. So I get frustrated at times, but it gets me to write an article. I'm a written person.
Yeah.
I used to have multiple blogs. I like to write. So I write my opinion. I write everything on any platform that I can. But I do agree with everything you do. You don't force an opinion. You just bring the facts to the users. And I learned from you a lot. From your videos.
I learned from me a lot as well. This is part of the reason I make the videos, actually, because I forget a lot of the things. Like, this is actually why I do a lot of the tutorials I'll do, so I can remember them later down the line. It's like, hey, how did I do that thing with Vim again? I don't remember.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a video on that, don't I?
And I miss a lot of your tools videos. You when you discover tools, you make videos about them. I don't know if you made a video about that. I didn't look, but there's a terminal tool. I don't know if it's my turn to let people know about something. It's called TopGrade. It's called TopGrade. Ever made a video of that?
Yes, I did. It was a while back.
It's still being maintained. It's still being maintained, and I'm using it by default on XeroLinux.
Oh, nice.
What I love about it is...
Yes, I did 6 months ago.
It made me cry because I was like, where was this tool all this time?
Mm-hmm.
It updates your AUR packages. It updates your Flatpaks, your snaps, your Git. Like if you installed ZSH from source, it updates power level 10K, all my ZSH and everything. And the one that got me, that brought tears to my eyes was it even updates your SSD firmware.
I don't think it did that when I was using it. That's cool.
Yeah, I noticed it like a week ago. I ran the top grade command, and it was like updates detected for, I forget which SSD. I think it was the Samsung 970. It said, "Oh, there's a firmware upgrade for your Evo 970 Samsung." I was like, "Okay, install, enter." It installed, and everything was cool. And it also detects firmware updates for printers.
Wow. Wow, that's like, impressive.
Where was the Swiss Army knife when I was looking for one? So now it's being used on XeroLinux by default. And I even ship it with my own custom top-grade TOML configuration. By the way, TOML is what language?
TOML is just a configuration language.
Yeah, configuration, but I think it's written in Rust, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I might be related to Haskell. I'm not sure.
Oh, I wouldn't know, but the configuration file is written in TOML. So you enable the no confirm flags. You wanted to get the RSS feeds from the ArchLinux website. There's a lot of configuration to be made in this tool. But the problem is it's not a package manager. It's just an update tool.
Yeah. It's just sort of it's basically just a script that runs through everything to update, effectively.
Yeah, it uses Pacman. It uses Yay it does use Paru, but it works better. Yes. But it works better with Yay. According to the developer, he said it works with Paru, but I recommend to use it with Yay.
Okay.
So it works. I don't know what it uses to update the firmware because I don't think Pamac updates the firmware. I don't know what it uses.
Wouldn't have a clue.
But it's amazing. And I have aliased it to up all. When you type up all in XeroLinux, it runs top grade because top grade is too long of a word, especially to remember. I aliased it to update and upgrade. Update is without the no confirm flag, and upgrade is with the no confirm. But if you use no confirm and there are conflicts, you will get issues. So it's better to use the update. But it's amazing, and I'm pairing it up with a TUI package manager that you made a video about a long time ago, I think. That shows you how much I watch your channel.
What program is this? I'm gonna find out how long it is.
PackUI.
PackUI.
Either you or somebody. I think either you or somebody else made the video, but I'm almost sure you did.
PackUI. PACUI.
No, PackUI or Pack something. Pack. It's a TUI thing. Packstrap? No. Pack. No, not PackUI. I have it here.
Yeah, if you can tell.
That's Pack.
The name's not ringing a bell. Pack.
PackSeek. PackSeek, I think.
PackSeek.
PackSeek's bin. It's on XeroLinux repo. Yeah, PackSeek.
PackSeek.
PAC SEEK-bin. I don't know who made the video about it.
No, I have not covered this one. No, I've never even heard of this one.
Okay, PackSeek is written by someone who is currently on the EndeavorOS forums. And I want to use it.
That looks
cool. It's a TUI. Think about it as Pamac, but terminal version.
Yeah, that looks really cool. So It also does AUR stuff as well then?
Yeah. You can set it to use, you go to settings in the TUI thing, you set it to use either Paru or Yay, and it works good with both.
That's really cool. I'm gonna add that to the list now.
You can make a video if you want about it, because it's really useful. I want to use it on the next version of Xero Linux. I'm going to use it in conjunction with Top Grade.
Okay.
But PackSeek only supports the AUR. It doesn't support app images or snaps or anything. It just supports Arch and mainline repositories and AUR.
Yeah. Anything you add into Pacman and AUR.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, it uses Pacman.
Yeah.
So it's a very neat little tool, and it's maintained, and I'm updating it on my repository. But that's what I'm going to offer. As for the update checker notifier tool, I'm going to use Kalu KDE. If you look at Kalu KDE, it hasn't been maintained since October 2021 or September 2021, but it works. It just works. There's nothing to be done to it to make it any better. With the exception of the settings screen, it's a little bit messy, I would say, for a new user. But if you're a long-time Linux user, it's very simple. You just check the news, uncheck. You can follow. You can set it to follow certain AUR packages separately. Like if you want to follow, let's say, PackSeek, which is on the AUR. If you want to follow just that package, you just go to the settings of Kalu KDE. It will notify you when a new commit has been pushed to that package. Cool. Yeah, it is really useful. It's on my repository as well, Kalu KDE. I just don't like the fact that nothing other than Pamac handles Arch packages if you want to just double-click them. It's annoying, but because I'm a mouse user.
Yeah.
If I can't do something with a mouse, double-click, it's annoying to me. People tell me, why don't you use a window manager? Because I am not a keyboard warrior. And if I show you my keyboard, you'll understand.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, where is it? I cannot show you, but it's
the
G15, the original G15. It's humongous and it's got sticky keys. So
with a lot of the window managers, you'd be surprised with how much you can get done with just a single hotkey and a mouse as well. Like i3, for example, has a lot of mouse bindings in it.
Yeah, there's DWM as well. BSPWM or DWM, I forget which one.
BSPWM has no config out of the box. DWM is the suckless
one. Yeah, DWM, that's the one. You can use it with a mouse as well as you can use it with a keyboard.
Okay. I'd need to go check that out at some point. I've been meaning to for a really long time.
The surprising thing is that on the AUR, I found drivers for the G15, the original G15 from 2011. I think this one I got in 2000. No, it's a 2006 keyboard.
Yeah.
Somebody went to the trouble to port the drivers because on Windows, it no longer works.
Right.
They updated their driver to only work with the new G15 and onwards. Because they took that G15, they shrunk it down, and the monitor is smaller and it's got a higher refresh rate.
Yeah.
This one is no longer supported on Windows by their own driver. But someone went to the trouble on the AUR to make it work on Linux. And that's what I have. It now displays the time, the resources I'm using on my system, and I can use the another package that the guy created where I can inject my own scripts. Like if I want to display my health bar in a game or how many coins I have, stuff like that. Because that was the whole point behind this keyboard, is for gamers to see their health bar and stuff like that.
This keyboard. Oh, that one.
2006 G15 Logitech. So it works for me now. It works flawlessly under Linux because someone on the AUR. So what I'm saying is the AUR can be helpful. Don't attack the AUR for having bad packages. Look at my case. This is a keyboard that no longer exists, and I got it 10 years too late when I bought it, almost. So I'm like, wow, somebody reverse engineered a Windows driver to work on Linux. I'm like, I'm beyond speechless. So the AUR, and I build packages that I test myself for my repository. So if you don't see the packages being signed, doesn't mean I didn't test them. I test everything on my system before including on my repositories. So AUR is a treasure trove of unique packages.
Honestly,
you just have to.
I was going to say, that's one of the big reasons why I just struggle to use anything that isn't Arch-based. Like, the AUR is such a useful resource. Like,
it is.
I've tried to use some Debian-based systems in the past, inside of a VM, and it's just like, but where's my AUR though? Especially for what I do, because a lot of the software that I just want to test, some random person, it can have 1 star on GitHub. Someone's already packaged it. I don't have to deal with getting it manually installed. It's so convenient.
Yeah, and Fedora is trying to alleviate that as well with their core repositories. It's basically the AUR of Fedora.
Okay.
But the problem with Fedora is for each package, there should be a separate repository. That's the thing. Like if you install Nobara, I don't know if you heard of Nobara. It's a Fedora spin with KDE created by Glorious Agro.
Oh, okay, cool.
For gamers, basically.
Yeah.
So I noticed that he's got his own custom build of OBS with all the streaming plugins your heart desires. The Titan 6.
Yeah, the Titan 6.2 version. Yeah, because the Arch devs refuse to fix the.
Yeah, and including all this something plugin or something called the Stream Effects Studio and stuff like that.
Okay, that's
cool. It's with NVIDIA's NVFBC patches applied, because I think the NVFBC, they're made for Quadro cards. If you want to use them on mainline cards, you have to apply a patch. So everything is included for OBS as a single package. I noticed that was a separate repo for OBS. And then he created a separate custom package for Wine GE. It's a separate repo. And one for the GE custom kernel. That's a separate repo, and a separate repo, and a separate repo. When I ran the update, the DNF update in Fedora, I saw that there was like 16 different repositories trying to update.
Isn't that the problem that Ubuntu is trying to fix with the what are their custom repos called?
Yeah, DT mentioned that.
I can't remember. Someone's gonna comment about it.
But the AUR style for Debian, basically. But it's got so few packages that, and it's been 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now, and it's got still very few packages. It's not attractive enough yet.
I think that's the thing about the AUR. The AUR is sort of self-sustaining at this point. Like, people will add packages to the AUR because there are already lots of packages in the AUR, and they know that by being there, it's going to get more people to actually look at that application.
But there are cases where the AUR does not make sense. Like, I'm going to give a valid example. There are snaps and Flatpaks PKG builds. So you can convert. I've seen that. You can convert snaps and Flatpaks into a regular Arch package, but what's the point? You're just breaking the whole idea of self-contained snaps and Flatpaks. You're turning them into just another package that might mess up your system. The whole idea behind snaps and Flatpaks that they are containerized and self-sustaining. You don't need dependencies. But by turning them into an Arch package, so you're ending up installing all the dependencies again. And as a maintainer, I suffer from that. When I build a package and it requires certain dependencies that are only on the AUR, I end up having to build all the dependencies as well to include on my repository. So I'm like, I put a hard limit to 500 packages on my repository. I'm already at 1,000.
I don't think it's a very hard limit.
But I ended up with double that because of the dependencies.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay.
So, like bottles, for example. I'll take bottles as an example. Recently, instead of using a stable package as a dependency, the developers decided to include a bin, a Git version of the package that is on the AUR that we have to build as a result. And the building was always failing because that Git hasn't been updated since 2020. Instead of using the stable one that was updated a few weeks ago, they go use an older version. And when I talked to the developers, they were like, yeah, because the older version has something we are relying on for bottles. But it's not building for 99% of the people. Only 1% of the people are being able to build it because they're on older systems. They were like, yeah, we'll look into that. After 24 hours, they reverted all the changes and they went back to the stable one. They were like, yeah, we don't want to cause any more trouble. We'll revert back to a previous commit.
There was this this open letter that came out about bottles a while back, about a month ago. I was gonna make a video and I just didn't get around to it. About how basically distros shouldn't be shipping bottles, but instead relying on the Flatpak because that's the way it's intended to be shipped, and
correct.
Not doing it like that is going to lead to some problems.
That is true. I recently decided to remove it from my repository because I am going against the whole ideology of the user, of the creator.
Yeah.
Shipping it, I was shipping it not on the distro, but as a choice in the installer to install it as an Arch package. But the whole idea behind bottles is that it's containerized and it creates containerized bottles. By shipping it as a regular Arch package, everything will end up in your home directory.
Right. Yes.
So it's going to start your home directory will end up being a few hundred gigabytes because of your bottles and stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm going to remove it soon because number one, it's breaking the whole idea, going against the whole idea of the package. Number two, I'm going to remove all snaps and Flatpaks that I built from the AUR because the idea is it's not normal. It's containerized is containerized. Why ship it as a regular package?
Is it that difficult to just be installing them from a FlatHub when you're actually setting everything up, or is there any reason why you were doing it that way before?
The only reason I was doing it is because I wanted to offer it as an option in my package installer that uses Pacman. But the user, since I ship with the Flatpak support, not snap support, no snap support, because snaps are gray area for now. I consider them gray area. But Flatpak, since everything is becoming a Flatpak these days, there's a FlatHub, and I include Flatpak support in Pamac.
Okay, right.
So all they have to do is search bottles.
Okay.
So they will get the Flatpak. That's the intended way of installing it. I did something tremendously bad the other day. I tried to install Nextcloud from the AUR.
How does Nextcloud suggest you do it?
Snap.
Oh, okay.
It's a snap package from the beginning.
Oh,
so if you want to get a well configured and easy to configure the way it was intended, Nextcloud, you install Ubuntu server and you grab it from as a snap. This is how it was intended to be from the beginning. Okay. There is, however, an AUR package. Good luck getting that to work. Good luck getting that to work. Number one, it's slow. Number two, it keeps timing out, and it keeps forgetting your files for something.
That's a problem for Nextcloud, yeah.
It's got Alzheimer's, specifically for people who don't want to go store files on the cloud. They want to store them locally, like I do, on a separate machine.
Yeah.
The way it was intended to be used. It kept forgetting my comic books. It somehow got infected with Alzheimer's disease. I'm like, okay, no. So I deleted the whole thing. I just copied the file, regular file on a JBOD NAS, and I'm good. So Yeah, there are some packages. Whenever it comes to a snap Flatpak, do not install as a
if it's already packaged, there's no point packaging the package.
Exactly, because if it's I prefer, and I am with Nicolas with this one. Flatpaks are great to use if only they were better maintained. They need better maintenance, but not in having, especially for me. And I'm going to be go a little bit off the books a little bit on this one. Since the economic situation in Lebanon, I can no longer buy games.
Right.
So I get the pirated version. And pirated versions, the cracks can sometimes cause issues, and it can infect your system with whatever.
Yes.
But by running them with the Flatpak version of bottles and everything being containerized, if it should infect anything, it will infect only the container. It will never leave the container. But if you install it as a regular package from the AUR, it's gonna go infecting everything, because it's no longer a container as it should be. So this is where I agree with Nicolas that people should start gravitating more and more towards Flatpaks and containers. Okay, I don't know why people use this excuse not to use Flatpaks. It's a useless excuse. It doesn't hold any water. It doesn't go with the system theme.
I think
it doesn't use.
That is a fair thing, because it does, but Flatpak does a really bad job at explaining how to get that to work.
Like Kdenlive, for example. Simple. Kdenlive. I'm using lay-in theme on my system, and that's a very common theme everybody uses. I launch it. It's white as snow. So I have to go into convoluted settings to look for where to tell. And when you go to the theme in the menu, it gives you 1,000 themes, because it's got built-in themes to use and your own. So I'm like, way to introduce confusion to the user. Just give him dark or light. Why do you have to give him a Dracula, lay-in, blah 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 blah? Because even if you select Dracula, it's not completely well done in the Flatpak. That's why I opt to use the one from the Arch repositories instead, because I tried to use the Flatpak version and I enabled the dark theme. The menu entries, the text of the menus are black on dark. I'm like, way to go, Caden. I go to the regular Arch package, it works just fine.
Well, here's the problem with Flatpaks, and some Flatpaks are great. Things like the OBS Flatpak work fantastically. Bottles of Flatpak also works great. The difference with Flatpaks like this is the developers maintain the Flatpak. Most Flatpaks out there are not developer maintained. Like, they're treated the same way that, a package on Arch would be maintained, or a package on Fedora. Usually it's not the developers of the app that are doing it, it's some third party, and maybe they understand the application well, but in a lot of cases, like with the OBS package on Arch, it's packaged completely wrong, and no one should ever use it.
Exactly. That's why I stopped shipping it in my package manager, because I much prefer the Titan one.
Yeah.
And the Titan guy is on the OBS Discord server. So you just go to the Linux section of the Discord server. Nice. He's always there to help. He's always there.
Yeah, I was using his version all the time until OBS finally started shipping the Flatpak. Now, I generally use the Flatpak, except on Wayland, where it started to break recently. I just open it crashes. I don't know why.
No, the Flatpak, I think still has an issue with NVIDIA.
I use AMD.
Well, lucky you. I still run the 1080 that I got in 2016, and so NVENC encoder and NVFBC. I have a user on XeroLinux. He's a streamer. He streams an odd choice of a game, but he likes it. So Mega Man.
Okay.
He loves Mega Man, so he streams his Mega Man gameplay. But before every stream on the Arch Titan 652 package, he's always having issues. He doesn't have the same issues as he has with the Flatpak. With the Flatpak, NVFBC, the frame buffer thing, he keeps having to troubleshoot that. He keeps having to, for the NVENC encoder, sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't. He has to quit, relaunch, and because he uses a laptop with hybrid Intel NVIDIA, which is the problem at its core. So if you have hybrid...
Oh, it's hybrid as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad idea.
So it will always have issues. But with the Titan 652 version, since it's an Arch package, it can detect his hardware better. You know, less troubleshoot, always troubleshooting, but less.
Yeah.
And since Titan is on the team of StreamApex plugin, and he's on the OBS Discord, so he always gets help from the developer himself. So that's the benefit. So it's the same discussion as you said earlier, that the Flatpak is by the developers. Same thing can also happen to Arch packages as well. Like the Titan 652, it's not maintained by him on the AUR, but you can always go to him because he's using somebody he knows to maintain the AUR package. So you can always go to him and ask for help. He will 100% support the project. And so far, with the latest update of the Flatpak version, it has fixed a few issues. It has fixed a few issues, especially related. And now with the latest driver, NVIDIA driver, they fixed a few issues with the NVFBC. All he had to do is wait for the guys who create the patch to enable it on mainline cards to update. They updated it, and now he's good. He's good.
I've heard the NVIDIA drivers have been slowly getting better.
They are. And now, but I still opt to use the TKG patched versions over the stock versions that come on the Arch repositories, because TKG is a gaming-oriented... He's got his mainline kernel patched with gaming-oriented patches. So I use his packages on my repository to ship because they're better. And I notice a lot of smoothness and responsiveness with those drivers rather than the ones shipped on the Arch repositories.
Right.
But it takes a maintainer to understand these things. Regular users won't know. So on Xero Linux, instead of shipping with regular drivers, I ship with the TKG so users don't get confused. But the only confusion happens is with the usual NVIDIA issues, is if you have something older than Turing, older than Pascal, you will have to use a different version of the drivers. You have to go for 70, and if you have even older, you have to go with a 390. You're using, for whatever reasons, something from the year 2000, you have to use the 340 drivers. So this is where the confusion starts again. So the user is confused. Which driver? I have this graphic card. Which driver should I install? Those are the questions I get. So I have to answer them because I'm the one who knows, they don't know. But this is an issue that will forever exist in NVIDIA land. And recently, Mesa decided to jump on the same train. The recent Mesa drivers 2.22.2, I think, they decided to drop support for the RX 100 and 200 series AMD cards.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So users with those cards will not even be able to boot a lot of ISOs that use the recent. And you cannot make two versions of the Mesa drivers coexist on the same system. And I'm not going to go above and beyond to figure out a fix for those users. I just tell those users, if it doesn't boot into the live environment, select the distro that works for you.
If you had the development knowledge, you could probably make it switch at boot. But
I don't have them. But that's why we're looking for people. If we can find someone who can help us do these kind of things, it will help Xero Linux work for older systems. But for the time being, until we do, the choice is clear. For users with the RX 100 and 200 series, go to a distro that supports your hardware. Xero Linux will not support it until we get somebody that knows how to work on those things. somebody already is, not for XeroLinux, or for another distro, they're trying to make hardware detection work that way. If RX 100-200 series is detected, use the older version of Mesa.
Yeah.
If a newer version is detected, then use the newer version. But so far they have failed, because Mesa is a huge package. It's not a small package. It took me 3 hours to build it on my system. So, if you do it on, if you have a build server, then okay. But if you're building it on your home computer, it's going to take a long time. But this is the kind of things that go into maintaining a distro. Decisions, and if you have the manpower and the development knowledge, you make the distro grow and support more hardware. But since I am a one-man show doing a one distro, I cannot really do that. And with zero development knowledge, I cannot really do that. So I stick to my guns. Whatever works, I tell the users, this is how the distro is. It supports this kind of hardware. Either use it or don't. That's it. I take the safer route because I don't have the knowledge nor the manpower to do anything else. When I do, things might change. But until then, this is how they are. Maintaining a distro comes with a lot of responsibilities. It's easy to do, but it comes with a lot of responsibilities because you need to make sure you're making the right decisions. You have the right amount of manpower. You have the development knowledge and all that. But if you're doing it for yourself, you can do whatever you want. But if you're doing it for the people, it's going to be hard to satisfy everyone. You can't satisfy everyone. I learned that the hard way, because I had a lot of sleepless nights trying to satisfy one user. I added something for one user. KDE Wallet, because he had a NAS and he didn't want to have to input the password every time you wanted to access it. So with KDE Wallet, you just save password. You have this checkbox where you tell it to save the password, and that's it, done deal. But if you have it disabled, you have to enter the password every time because the checkbox is not there. I enabled KDE Wallet. I had an angry mob. I just did. I applied for one user. All the other users attacked me. No, so I disabled it again. So it's those kind of things, It's small things, but they grow with. So I decided nothing out of the box. You do whatever you want.
Maybe provide some toggles to install stuff, but that's about as much you'll do.
Exactly. Well, but the Linux, I prefer to use Linux with all its issues over Windows, because Windows will always be there on my system because it has its uses. And what I tell users is, if you're coming with Windows, do never wipe your Windows installation. Install Linux alongside it. Learn Linux and have a safe ground to go back to.
Jump in the deep end. Do it. You want to. That's what I did. I did it during the middle of a semester. It was a bad idea.
I'll tell you when I did my Linux jump. I was working for Apple in Ireland. And Apple gives you, since it was the early days of the pandemic, we had our iMacs at home, our work iMacs at home. So, and they give you 1 hour break time during the day until you punch out. During that time, I hit the punch out for the break time, go to Linux. Come back from the break time, go back to, because I used to work for Siri. So my job was to have headphones on my head, listen to people's requests. But I wanted to take a break from that, and I wanted to take a break from Mac OS, so I went to Linux. I used to have Windows on another machine connected to my TV, but I only used it because I was on the team of custom images for the Raspberry Pi 4 for retro gaming. So I was using Windows for that. I needed it, but it was on a separate machine. But when I was working during work hours, punch out, go to Linux, come back and have lunch, of course, and then come back and continue on Mac OS. And we had those iMacs that took 20 minutes to boot with a mechanical drive and everything. So I was like, no, Mac OS. I've been using Mac OS and Windows all my life. I need something different. So I was using Manjaro KDE, and I was enjoying it with all these effects and transparencies with Kevantum and stuff. And I told myself, as soon as I come back home, my main machine will have Linux. And I haven't seen Windows ever since. I do see Windows just for the small period of times where I need to play something that, for some reason, Proton does not support.
Sure.
But other than that, a total of 1 hour. I don't game hours upon hours upon hours. I have an attention span of 1 hour on games. That's it. Launch the game, 1 hour, 60 minutes, go back to Windows, go back to Linux. I don't even see the Windows desktop. I just see it for a blink of an eye because I have Steam Big Picture mode to launch boot.
Yes.
So it boots into Steam Big Picture, launch the game, done deal. I just hide Windows as much as I can because I don't want to see that desktop. I don't want to see the taskbar because it's Windows 11. And Windows 11 taskbar is the worst. So I'm like, yeah. So that's how I escape Windows and Mac OS. It's Linux, and I love the issues that it has. For me, they push me to learn. It's a reason for me to learn and to keep learning. And the more I learn, the happier I am. But I cannot learn development because of my ADHD issues and my anxiety issues, and because if I concentrate on code too long, I end up in a corner. Can't breathe. Can't breathe. So anxiety attacks, they hit whenever I read too much code. So if I had the ability to learn code, I would. But unfortunately, I can't. So that's why we need developers who don't have any issues to help us with that stuff. But otherwise, Linux is amazing. No matter, I don't care if people say, "Oh, it's unstable. It's got it's fragmented," because you got Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, and Arch.
Yeah.
Those are the main. And everything that comes out of it is too much. You either use those three or don't use anything that comes, or get yourself overwhelmed with the rest of them. I say, for a beginner user, use the base. Like, use Bullseye. Bullseye is more stable than any of its derivatives, either Ubuntu or anything else, because Ubuntu, as of late, can become unstable. It's an argument to be made. But still, I would recommend Fedora. If I were to recommend
I've seen a lot more people recommending Fedora as of late.
I used it, and I put myself in the shoes of a beginner. As long as you know what the command is, sudo dnf upgrade, you're done. That's all you need to know. And sudo dnf install, name a package. Okay, they don't have they use Discover. Oh my God, I don't know why they do that on KDE. But anyway, it's user-friendly. I'm not saying that it works as intended, but I'm saying it looks friendly. And if I recommend something really, I would recommend Fedora GNOME Edition. Yeah. The workstation. Why? Because GNOME works on Wayland for a lot of NVIDIA users. Not perfectly, because you cannot blame Wayland as much as you have to blame the developers of said apps, especially Electron apps. Because there's a lot of apps that are still using Electron 10, Electron 12, Electron 13. Those electrons are so out of date, they'll never work on Wayland. So Electron apps, app developers need to step up their game. Basically, it's package developers that are to blame more than Wayland. Wayland is providing you the new backend, and I agree with your key binding issue with Wayland. I do agree 100% because
I can understand a lot of people. I heard a lot of people in the comment section there, like, "Oh, this isn't that big of a deal. I don't use this." Like, yeah, you may not use this, but this is fundamental to my workflow. I literally cannot main Wayland without this being fixed. Like, when I record a video on Wayland, you probably notice if you've seen any of those videos, like, I will be talking, and then I'll have to look over here, and then, like, look back. I could always, like, cut stuff out and do it like that, but it changes the way I have to record the videos. I don't want to do that. I want to record the videos the way I want to record them, And on Xorg, I can just do that. I can just record it, like press my keybinds, everything just works.
Yeah, and for me, I have when I'm in the shop, I only have one monitor. I don't have, so I have to use workspaces.
Yeah.
Alt F1, F1, F2, F3, F4 to switch between workspaces is fundamental. If it doesn't work on Wayland, it's an issue.
Yep.
But other than that, this is a unique, only very niche issue. But for apps not working, like OBS and stuff like that, it's on the development side of those packages to get up and running with Wayland. Wayland is by no means ready for the masses, but when it is, better make sure that it will ship on XeroLinux as an option. But until then, it will not be included on XeroLinux on the ISO, because it confuses a lot of people. I had a lot of users, not because when you have the SDDM login screen, I don't know why, when you have when you enable the Wayland session, it defaults to that. For some odd reason, it defaults to Wayland. Okay. So users don't pay attention to that. They put their password in, they hit enter, they're NVIDIA users. They hit enter, it throws them back to the login screen. They come back to me, I can't log in with your distro, it's broken. No, did you look at the top left or the bottom right to see if it's defaulting to Wayland? 99% of the time, it's defaulting to Wayland. So I decided to remove the session from the ISO. That way, it automatically goes to X11. Yeah. I tried doing the hack where I put session X11. For some reason, it still defaulted to Wayland. So Wayland, you put it, it's the master.
Yep.
So now I removed it, so no issues. But whatever, Wayland still needs time. I give it around 3 to 4 years to get to a usable state.
There is something fun that's probably going to happen with Wayland. This came out, I think the Phoronix article came out today. There was a issue made over on the GTK GitLab, and it looks like possibly GTK 5, which will probably be in like 2030, is going to be Wayland only.
Yeah, I heard of that. If it is Wayland only, I think it's GTK Wayland. In my head, it's GNOME only Wayland. They know how to deal with Wayland better than the KDE people do. For me, since I am KDE in a KDE mindset, I think KDE. How will it benefit KDE? So far, KDE have done nothing in the way. They keep updating. Oh, better Wayland support for AMD and for Intel, but not for NVIDIA. Wayland plus NVIDIA on KDE equals, if you want to have nightmares, yeah, go ahead. But I think, if I interpret what Nicolo said, he was like, we cannot do anything with a proprietary company. They have to do something for us, give us something to work on before we can do anything. And so far, NVIDIA is concentrating on, we need more people to use NVIDIA, so we're going to start giving them the hint of open sourcing. And people think by what NVIDIA open source is the driver for the masses. No, it's development, it's CUDA, it's Quadro, it's not mainline. If you own a mainline GPU, like a consumer GPU, nothing will be open source. Nothing is open source. It's still proprietary. If you want to open NVIDIA Open DKMS, you should have a Quadro card. You should have a professional card. Some developers are trying to port that over to consumer GPUs with not so much luck. That's why if you try to build, for example, the TKG drivers, it will come up with a huge warning telling you, okay, the open DKMS does not currently work on. Do you want to build with them? If you do, get ready for nightmares. He gives you the option to, if you're convinced that it's going to work for you, but it's a big warning in the build script. So NVIDIA is starting to get around, but not for the masses.
NVIDIA did put a list I think maybe like 6 or so months ago, outlining the main problems they need to address with Wayland. Whether everything on that list gets addressed, I don't know. We'll have to see how what really happens, but they are aware that it's a problem. It's just a question of how much manpower they're willing to allocate to fixing the problem.
For people that don't bring them money.
Yeah.
Because Linux doesn't bring money to NVIDIA. So I think by 2030, 2035, we'll see something. But until then, my recommendation, if you have NVIDIA card, don't go Wayland yet. If you have an AMD card and Intel, it's awesome. It's getting there. It works. Okay. But if you're an NVIDIA user, which a lot of people are, don't use Wayland. Don't even approach Wayland.
Like I get
even unknown who do it very well, but still it's got issues.
I would suggest if someone is building a system with Linux in mind, just build it with an AMD card. I get the people who buy like NVIDIA cards. Like NVIDIA does right now make better cards especially on like the top end. But if you're building a system specifically knowing that it is going to be a Linux system, AMD and maybe Intel, depending on how these desktop cards go in the future. I know the initial stuff wasn't doing super great, but AMD or potentially Intel is where you should be going.
Just going to say one thing about AMD. I know they work. I have an AMD card in this system. Yep. It's not an AMD card. It's an HD Radeon HD 6450.
Yeah, okay, a little bit old, yeah.
It's an ATI card. It doesn't have, you know how NVIDIA has their NVIDIA settings control panel where you can set things up? AMD does not have that.
They don't, do they? They do on Windows, they just never ported it.
It's like, okay, and AMD works. I agree with you. But if you want to change your settings related to the GPU, what do you do?
Suffer.
Yeah, like I am used to, on Windows, I'm used to opening the NVIDIA control panel and setting up I want the GPU to handle the anti-aliasing, not the application.
Yeah.
I want the GPU to enable or disable.
Yeah, NVIDIA's tooling is vastly superior when it works. Like when the GPU's drives are working.
Yeah, on Linux, I'm not talking Linux. I'm talking in general.
Yeah.
So you can tell the GPU what to do: enable G-Sync, disable G-Sync, and stuff like that on NVIDIA. On AMD, you're forced to use the driver as a chips. That's it. And that, for me, who is used to a lot of granularity with the system he's using, when AMD tells me, "Oh, sorry, you use the driver as is. If you want to modify it, you need an AMD Pro graphic card or whatever it's called to be able to use the AMD whatever it's called driver on the AUR."
Yeah.
It gives you a sort of a control panel. Or use Core CTL. Core CTL is a sort of a tool that enables you to control the fans on your GPU and CPU and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's only AMD. It's not NVIDIA. So okay, so there is a developer who created something to give us a little bit, but all we can control are the fan curves and the RGB so far.
Yeah.
But nothing else. I'm hoping somebody steps in and creates a complex control panel.
I want to say there's a tool that lets you do overclocking as well. I want to say that, but I'm not sure.
If you figure it out, make a video about it. I'll be sure to check it out.
I think it's embedded in like another tool that I think it's the whatever that program is to like manage power usage on laptops.
Auto CPU frequency control?
Something like that.
I'll check it out.
Oh, no, different one. It's one of those tools that you would use, but yeah.
Yeah, I need a unified control panel that gives me all...
I don't know of anything that's unified, that's for sure.
If someone can create one, please do, because that's what I'm missing to switch to AMD. Because I don't like to switch to a GPU that works, but with which I have zero control.
Yeah.
So I need control. I don't overclock. I don't need overclocking. Overclocking is not my thing. I overclocked once. I fried the motherboard. So it's not my thing. I just want to be able to control the fan curves. I need to control the RGB. I need to be able to control the power usage and stuff like that, all under one single application. I don't want to have to open 6 different ones just to be able to. So give me that, I'll switch to AMD. Don't give me that, I'll stick to NVIDIA, because at least with NVIDIA, I can control the, for example, as an AMD user, you have to configure, you have to set edit a configuration file to disable tearing.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA is just a tick box in the settings. So force compositing and stuff like that. So tick that checkbox, you're done. With AMD, you have to hunt for the configuration file.
You change a XOR config file, or you can edit it with xrender.
Yeah, so you have to do all these things just to disable tearing. I'm like, no, I need a tool that just gives you a tick box. Done. So simplify the user's experience. Don't make it more difficult. So that's the only thing I'm waiting for before fully switching to AMD, because my next upgrade is in 2025 for my system. I bought that system in 2021. In 2025, I give it 4 years, and I upgrade my system. I don't buy a new system since I am on an AMD system. I can jump from the 3600X all the way to 5950X, and my experience is gonna double. My performance is gonna double. My 1080 will be replaced with an AMD GPU. But if on Linux they don't create that control panel I'm waiting for, I'm sticking to NVIDIA.
Totally fair.
So give me control, I'll switch. Not before. That's just me.
No, I want a control panel as well. That would be very nice.
Like other users, they just want it to work. Like they come to me, they tell me, oh, I have an AMD card, so all I have to do is install XF86 video AMD GPU, done deal. And my games run just fine. Not really, because if you want to control something related to your GPU to get a little bit of boost, you can't. You're just stuck with whatever. They tell me, oh, you're right. I can get better performance if I was able to tweak this and that, which you can't. So I tell the users about the limitation. They don't notice it because they're used to something that just works. Like, same thing happens on Windows. Not everything works out. But on Linux, it's better. And on Linux, you feel that you learned something coming out of it. With Windows, because everything is spoon-fed to you, just double-click on a setup file, install, you're done. It's the same thing with Apple. Why do people forget their iCloud passwords? Because Apple made it not necessary to remember it.
Right.
Because you use either your Face ID or your fingerprint.
Yes, it makes sense.
To authenticate. So you don't have to remember your password. Since I used to work for an Apple premium reseller for 5 years, most people came to me, please, can you I want to buy a new phone. Can you transfer my data from one phone to another? Okay. What's your iCloud password in order for us to? What's an iCloud? What's iCloud? They don't even know what iCloud is because somebody in their family set the phone up for them and everything. And every time
Apple's done a really good job at making that a very transparent thing. You just store your data, and it's stored. It's stored,
and when you want to download a new app, instead of authenticating with a password, you just put your fingerprint or your Face ID. You just look at your phone. It's done. So there's nothing to remember. We're like, sorry, we can't do anything. We cannot transfer your data without your iCloud password. So I fault Apple for that. This was back in the iPhone 4 days. It was always required. It was mandatory to input the iCloud password every time you wanted to download a paid app, purchase an app. Free apps, not required, but paid apps, yes.
Okay.
So people couldn't forget their iCloud password because they had to input it every time they purchased an app.
Yeah.
Then people attacked Apple, telling them, we want to be transparent. We don't want to have to input our password every time we want to download an app.
Mm-hmm.
So Apple did what the users requested. And now people don't remember the iCloud passwords, which is mandatory to remember, because without it, you cannot transfer your data. You can see they satisfied the people. They created a bigger problem than it ever was.
Yup.
So and here in Lebanon, people are more like, if you say the word "I can't," they will take off their shoes and they will hit you with it. Yeah, it has reached that point. One guy didn't take off his shoe. He just, I give him credit, because the phone he was trying to transfer data from was his recently deceased brother's phone.
Right, okay.
He wanted to take it over and use it himself instead of buying a new one. But since his brother recently was deceased, he couldn't get the password. Right. So when we told him we can't because we needed the password, or at least the Face ID or the fingerprint ID, that person is gone. He no longer exists. We tried to explain that situation to Apple, because this is a unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't hear of it. They wanted proof on paper by the government that this person was dead before, for security reasons.
Yeah.
So the guy got pissed. He took the phone. He threw it across the table. It hit the wall. It smashed into a million pieces. Because, it's good. He was like, you can't you cannot unlock the phone for my dead brother's phone so I can use it. I told him, call Apple. You'll see. They're going to tell you the same thing. He started cussing and yelling and screaming, and the phone ended up in a million pieces on the floor. It was an iPhone 10 at the time.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Apple is not all that great with that kind of stuff. So, yeah, by this is what I meant by saying I did something for one user, I got attacked by a mob. Same thing happened with Apple, a conglomerate. I'm not talking about a single user. I'm talking about a conglomerate. So, yeah, some decisions are the wrong decisions. You have to admit them. I am happy to admit it. But Apple will never admit it. Apple will keep on telling you, it's to make your life easier. No, you're not. Because I forget my iCloud password 99% of the time. How easy are you making it? If I want to upgrade my phone, since I forgot my iCloud password, I cannot use a new phone. I have to start from scratch every time. That's a problem. Some companies create more problems, but they convince the consumer that it's not a problem. I don't want to be that. So I don't satisfy anyone. I just give them a blank slate. They do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. They create their own problems. Not me. I don't create a problem for the user. On the contrary, I solve their problem. So yeah, Linux taught me that, because in Linux, it's simple to solve problems because they're not big ones. On Windows, they're big ones that you cannot solve. Like back in the day, I used to ship customized versions of Windows. If you think about TeamOS, if you know them, a version of Windows that's pre-themed, pre-patched, has pre-installed packages and stuff like that, which was illegal to do because we used to distribute it as activated. Not anymore. Oh. Now we just ship it, and it's up to the user to do what they. But I don't belong to that group anymore. The last time I was part of that group was 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. But doing so with Windows, you cannot solve anything. Mm-hmm. Like you ship it, the guy tells you, it's broken. I tried to open Explorer, it crashes. I can't do anything for you. With Linux, you do the research. With enough research, you can give the solution. Yeah. This is what I love. Like as an owner of a repair store, I can give solutions to customers. Yeah. When they're using Linux, when they're using Windows, pirated versions of Windows, might I add, I'm like, it's out of my hands. I have to restore your system back to factory. So using the factory image, I can't do anything other than that. So with Linux, you can fix it and keep the data. And with Linux, you can set a separate partition for home directory. You just reinstall the system, all the settings are back.
Yeah.
So Linux is more simple than people give it credit. You just need to know how you do your stuff. Mm-hmm. So with Windows, there's no way around it. It's broken, it's broken. Format, reinstall. That's it. There's your documents are gone, your pictures are gone, your musics are gone. But with Linux, if you have a separate home directory, or if you have a time shift backup, or a snapshot, or whatever, however you created the backup, you can always come back. With Windows, not so much. So I am starting to introduce Linux to more people through my store. I'm using my store to introduce, like there was a customer who had a corrupt system. I installed Windows system. I installed XeroLinux on their system. They didn't know what Linux was or anything, but their system worked much better than when it was on Windows 8.1. So they're happy. So I'm not telling them what it is. I'm just telling them I reinstalled the operating system. Now it should be stable. 90% of the people in my small hometown, because it's a very small town, 3,000 people altogether.
Wow, really small.
Yeah. So most of them, they use their computers for YouTube, documents, and browsing the internet.
Yeah.
Maybe chatting from time to time.
Probably some emails as well.
And by the way, Ferdi is dead. Did you get the email?
I'm very aware. Yes.
I got introduced because of your video, and now I'm using Ferdium, the fork.
Yeah. People keep telling me about Ferdium. I need to actually go and. I think I covered Ferdium when the whole Ferdi situation happened, because the dev went kind of crazy on his Twitter.
Yeah, and I think he's Arab, because his name is Arabic. So I don't know.
I wouldn't have a clue.
But anyway, Ferdium is Ferdi. Mm-hmm. It looks exactly the same, functions exactly the same. It's like I'm using Ferdi, but different name. Mm-hmm. But they're using the same service, because the underlying service is the one that I forgot, Slack uses or something. No, I forgot.
I know
the underlying.
Yeah.
The underlying service is the same.
Yeah.
As the paid one, I forgot what it's called. So he just forked the GUI. Rambox, yeah. So he just forked the UI of Ferdi and just called it Ferdium. Mm-hmm. And it works just as well, and I can use an account. So I'm in sync upstairs, because
I actually never used the account sync feature, but yeah, that's cool that works as well.
Yeah, so my house is upstairs, so the shop and the house are in the same building.
Yes.
That's the benefit. So I go upstairs, I log in, I turn on the computer. It's the same settings that I have over here, so they're in sync. But yeah, Ferdium is worth using, because I don't like to have to open multiple windows for multiple chat clients. That's the only benefit. Other than that, there is no benefit. Actually, you're using the web interface of every app.
Yeah, well, it's more RAM. It's heavier to use.
Yeah,
like it's just convenience that comes with it.
And it will not work with Wayland, because it's using Electron 16. So unfortunately, and now I know what Electron is. I didn't know in the beginning. Electron to me was just another app. A DevOps explained to me what Electron is. It's basically Chromium. It's a Chromium engine packaged up as a package.
Yeah, it's like a GUI
like,
thing. Yeah.
I didn't know. Anyway, we've been on for 2 hours already.
Yeah, it's about time to end it off.
Yeah, it was great chatting. I hope I clarified a little bit what XeroLinux is and what it will be, and hope we didn't bore people with our discussion.
Well, it's less of a discussion, more like just I let you speak for a few hours.
I tend to do that because I'm passionate about Linux. This just shows how passionate I am.
No, I can definitely see that. I also love it when I have people on like this. Like, I feel like they are way more fun episodes than me trying to force a discussion to be happening. When someone is clearly passionate about whatever subject it is, I always feel like they make the best episodes.
Yeah, because Ferdium just updated the package on EUR. I need to
Nice.
package it up. I'm using a daily build, so I package it
okay.
up every 24 hours. But yeah, being passionate about anything makes that thing become better, whatever the project is, be it Linux, be it in a package or whatever. This is what helps the project get better. I want Linux to get better because, in all honesty, the last thing I want to say is, in all honesty, Linux, the way it is, with the confusion that it's introducing with those countless distros, including myself. I'm not excluding myself. The more distros you introduce to Linux, the more confusion you're gonna introduce to users, especially new users coming from Windows. We need to minimize the amount of distros if we want Linux to be used by the masses.
Yeah.
The less distributions you have, the more the user will gravitate towards it. The more distributions you have, the more confusion you'll introduce, the more users gonna say, no, too many. I don't know which is which and what is what.
Yeah.
The thing we tend to use more than we should is explaining what each distro has better than the one before it or less than the one before it. We need to have like a few distros. I'm not saying just the three bases, just a couple of distros that each one attacks a different area of Linux, but not 200,000 different distros. So I am of the camp that less is better, more is more confusion.
Yeah,
because someone recently told me, don't introduce too many options to the user using your tool. They're going to get confused. They're going to break their system. That's what got me to think about that situation with Linux. Minimize the distros, not by much, just enough that each one targets a certain. Don't make hobby distros. I would be happy to stop making XeroLinux because it's one less distro to confuse the user. I will continue doing it for myself, but I will not keep it online for much longer. It's whoever takes it over wants to keep it online, let them keep it online. It's not my problem. But the whole idea is minimize the confusion.
Yeah.
And my last word will be, if you want to use Arch, expect issues and you're a new user to Linux, expect issues because that's the nature of Arch.
Yeah.
The nature of Arch is a learning curve. It will break on you because it wants to teach you how to fall and get up again. Fall and get up again. If you want something that spoon feeds you everything, all the Debian-based distros are that. Anything Arch-based and Fedora-based is for more advanced users. Go Debian if you're new. Discover what Linux is. But if you go Arch, you are agreeing to an invisible agreement. You're signing an invisible agreement that you are ready to fix a lot of issues and learn from those issues.
Yeah.
If you expect Arch to work right out of the box like Debian, don't go there. Just don't go there. Arch is for learning. Debian is just for using. It's just a ready-made desktop to use out of the box. But Arch is not by any means, even with Manjaro. People think that Manjaro, because being what it is simple to use. It's not. It's Arch at the core. It just doesn't use the Arch repositories, but it's Arch at the core. So the same problems that happen with Arch will happen with Manjaro. So don't think that if it's dressed up in a different coat of paint, that it's going to function better than the rest. Arch as a whole is for the people who are willing to learn. That's it.
Is that the last thing you have to say now? You don't get another last thing on there? Okay.
Kind of long, but I cannot summarize it any shorter than that.
Well, before we go, where can people find you and the work you do?
They can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is TechZero, @TechZero, TechXero. And if they want to find me on Discord, they can join the XeroLinux Discord server, or on Telegram, XeroLinux Official.
Yep.
But just people ask me, what does Xero mean and what does Xero Linux mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because all names mean something.
Sure.
Xero Linux, because I'm half Greek, Xero means I know. So that translates to I know Linux. Xero Linux.
Okay.
I know Linux. And Tech Zero translates to tech I know. Technology I know.
Huh.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce a little bit of Greek into everything. Dark Zero is darkness I know.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I like to use I know a lot.
Also, the website for Xero Linux is
XeroLinux.xyz.
Yep.
XeroLinux.xyz.
I'll have all of those links in the description down below. If there's anything that you didn't mention, feel free to just send me the link afterwards, and I will. You should add it.
Will do. I just want users to read the end user agreement before they click the download button, because this will set expectations.
Awesome.
Do not expect something that Xero isn't. That's it.
Cool. As for me, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos, all that fun stuff there. I've got a gaming channel that is Brody Robertson Plays. I stream there twice a week. Every other day, there are YouTube shorts going up. If you are listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available on YouTube. As for the video watchers, the audio version is available basically anywhere you can find audio podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, anything else out there. There's an RSS feed. Add it to whatever application you want to use, and you'll be good to go. I will give you the last word. What do you want to say?
Linux is amazing. You need to learn it. It's so much fun, and you'll thank me when you begin. That's all.
Awesome. Well, see you guys later.
See you.